This week we're taking the Mixolydian mode and the A dominant chord tone arpeggios that we were doing in last week's lessons, and we're going to do something a little bit different with them. When I play over a dominant chord, over an A7 chord, I don't have just like one scale. Like I don't just play a blues scale, or I don't just play a Mixolydian mode, but I use a lot of different ideas to flesh out to make it more interesting. If I had an A7 chord here and I was soloing just Mixolydian, to me, there's only so long I think I'm going to keep that interesting. So what I like to do, besides things like using other scales and substitutions and things like that, superimposing triads, is a little bit of chromaticism. Now what chromaticism is where we're playing notes not all in a scale. The chromatic scale basically is you start on one note and you go up every half step until you get to wherever you're going. Basically it's just every... with this stuff, what we're going to do is we're going to use the mode and the arpeggios as kind of like a framework, and we're going to use chromaticism or chromatic ideas to go from one note to another. If we were to have like this A and this G right here, which is the root and then the minor seventh of an A7 chord, one way that we can use chromaticism is just going down one fret at a time until we get to the next chord tone right here. Alright, so what's happening is I'm starting and ending on notes that define the harmony. Most of the time that's going to be the chord tones, and that's why last week, in addition to the Mixolydian mode, I also had a lesson on the dominant 7 chord tones, our arpeggios, and the reason for that is because we're going to use those today. Now, some real simple ideas, like if I am playing an A7 and we're going to be playing just in this 4th position, root on the 5th fret scale pattern, the Mixolydian mode being right here, the 4th pattern, and then the arpeggio is going to be right here. The written materials for this lesson will have all this stuff written out, so without me going through a whole nother scale lesson, find that stuff. You can find it on markweinguitarlessons.com, MARKWEIN lessons.com, and the information should also be, if you're just seeing this on YouTube, you'll see it on the upper right corner in the about this video thing, or more information, whatever it's called. Anyway, we'll just take the beginning part of our dominant 7th chord arpeggio, which is the A on the 5th fret 6th string, C sharp, which is the 4th fret 5th string, the E, which is the 7th fret 5th string. We'll have the G, which is 4th string 5th fret, and then the root or octave, which is the 7th fret on the 4th string. We can do something like going from the root, or from the 3rd to the 5th. We can just connect the dots right there. Right? It almost doesn't matter what notes you're playing as long as you resolve them in a way that sounds good to you. We can play every note in a scale or in the chromatic scale, and as long as we're referencing that harmony that we're supposed to be playing, it'll pretty much work out right. You know, to me there's no wrong notes. There's just bad resolutions, or resolutions that don't particularly work for your needs. You know. So we've got one idea where we go from the 3rd to the 5th. We can go from the 5th down to the 4th, and one thing I'll do on the 5th string is go 7, 6, 5, 7, and then end on the root right there. Okay. Another thing that you can do, which is real traditional, is you can approach the 3rd from a half step below. You know, we've covered this in some of the blues lessons that we've done, but you're actually not necessarily needing to start on a chord tone or a scale tone. You're just coming into the half step from or the 3rd from a half step below. You could kind of do this if you wanted to. It's a little gimmicky, but any of the chord tones. first little bit I just played there, I'm just coming up half step into each note of the arpeggio. The second one, I'm playing each note of the arpeggio, going down a half step and returning. Right, and we're still hearing it as an A7 chord, even though we're playing all these notes that if you were to play an A7 chord and then hit like an A flat, you know, it just wouldn't work, you know. It would kind of sound like that, which is pretty obnoxious. Now, the licks that I've got here, I've got some sample licks just to kind of demonstrate this a little bit more. And then hopefully from what we've got here you'll be able to expand this into the other 4 positions of the cage system. Lick number 1, what we've got is so we're starting on the root, going down chromatically to the 7th and returning to the root, and then going from the 2nd note of the scale chromatically into the 3rd, and then we're playing 5th in the root. See, the chromaticism gives you a smoothness of line that you're not necessarily going to get from just playing the scale. You know, so it's all right. And when I play blues, I tend to play a little bit notier blues. I mean, I've got like that, like the Albert King kind of deal, but I also, you know, tend to do a lot of that stuff as well. And to me, it's just fun, and it's good, you know, it's just a different way of getting to the same point. All right, lick number 2. We're starting on the 5th. Alright, so what we're doing is from the 5th, going down chromatic to the 4th, and then back to the 5th, half step below the 3rd and up, and then ending on the root. Could sound like that if you want to. The next lick, we're actually going to go from the 5th in this octave up to the 7th, chromatically. Or so the extended part of that lick, you're going up to the 7th, back to the 5th, the 4th, and then we're approaching the 3rd from below. 2nd of the scale, chromatic, and then the 3rd. This is the 5th, root, and then chromatic down to the minor 7th. Okay, one more time, a little slower. On the 2nd string, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5. Just the fret numbers, not the scale degrees. And then the 7th fret on the 3rd string, and then on the 3rd string, 4, 5, 6. That leads us into the 3rd of the chord. And then on the 5th string, we've got the 7th fret, 4th string, 7th fret, and then chromatic down to the 5th fret. The last lick that I'm going to give you as an example, we're actually going to add one note to all of this. We're actually going to play this major 3rd up here, because the scale and the arpeggio that we've been playing ends here or here. Well, there's one more major 3rd up there, and it, you know, it's kind of cool to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, and so far we've played these chromatic ideas where there's a whole step or where there's a step and a half. Well, here we've got 2 whole steps, and usually what I will do is I'll play that whole step, and then I'll go chromatic from the 2nd note to the 3rd note of this whole step deal. So the idea here on the 1st string, starting on the root, chromatic up to the 3rd, root, 5 on the 2nd string, and then 4, 5, 6 on the 3rd string, which leads us back into the 3rd.